Hey guys, it's God Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 227th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So this LP is definitely on another level of overdue when it comes to albums I could have done hundreds of uploads ago now. But as you may know, I don't really like doing the same artist back to back, so while Me Against the World, Tupac's third studio album here, is definitely a highlight in his discography, I chose to save this top tier release in favor of All Eyes on Me and the Don Illuminati, the 7-Day Theory he dropped as Machiavelli. However, no one would ever be mad at somebody saying their favorite Tupac project is Me Against the World, because it's his only other project that I think could possibly rival All Eyes on Me when it comes to its status and impact on hip hop. I think if you were to remove the posthumous releases from the discussion, it would be easy to say Puck really didn't have anything resembling a whack album in his career, like his 1991 debut, Tupacalypse Now, or his sophomore LP that followed that one up. Even the self-titled debut by Tupac's Thug Life Collective, which dropped in 1994, is super underrated and full of gems. And that group featured a number of future Outlaws members, like Big Psych, Macadocious, and Rated R, as well as the late Stretch of Live Squad, who was unfortunately killed the same year this classic came out, 1995. Me Against the World was largely conceived around a number of pretty life-debilitating circumstances, like being arrested for shooting two off-duty dirty cops in Atlanta, being shot 5 times in the lobby of Quad Studios, and of course the impending prison sentence that Pac was facing at this time. Also, this is arguably the most prolific his work would get, because the albums that followed would also play around with predictions for his own future death, but this LP did it to such a degree that I have to assume it's one of the main reasons I've heard so many people say that Tupac had a self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense. Pretty much everything this dude released throughout his lifetime was heavily autobiographical, but Me Against the World may be the best example of a project you can go into not knowing anything about the artist, and then come out of it with a clear picture of exactly where they were mentally at the time. I think a big reason this album feels like a step up from the projects that preceded it is because Tupac did something that way too many successful artists and creatives who find success end up struggling to do, which is being able to take a step back, looking at the work they've released, and having the ability to go, you know what, as proud as I am of my last project, I think I can try some new things and make the next one even better. It's that aversion to doing the same old thing and just hoping it'll work out that prevents true visionaries like this from plateauing and growing stale. And truthfully, I think it's the exact reason that so many of the big names that were popping off in 2016 or so have virtually fallen off the face of the earth since then in terms of relevancy. It's because you can't just do the same old thing over and over and expect it to keep popping off just because you had successful singles in the past. And while I don't personally listen to him much these days, I have to give some credit to a guy like Lil Yachty, in comparison to many contemporaries of his who came up in that same SoundCloud scene around the same time, like Lil Pump or Lil Skies, because regardless of how much I personally enjoy the music Lil Boat puts out, you can't deny that he's tried new things over the years and gone out of the initial comfort zone that he created the Lil Boat mixtape in. It's exactly why someone like Kendrick Lamar has managed to retain a much greater level of relevancy and impact despite coming into the game long before many of these other dudes. And at the end of the day, it's because he cares, and I'm sure that need for consistency and artistry was heavily inspired by guys like Tupac, and specifically Me Against the World, considering Pac himself had said how this LP was designed to show his appreciation and love for the art form. And he sure did succeed with that mission, because this album features some of the best rapping he ever contributed to the game, and even outside of all the personal turmoil and traumatic experiences he paints vivid portraits for on here, he still finds time for moments like Old School, where he breaks down a long list of mentors and influences who inspired him to start rapping. And I think it was insanely progressive that Machiavelli felt the need to shout out so many New York legends that inspired him, because 1995 was virtually the peak of the East Coast versus West Coast beef, and he very easily could have just kept to California legends to keep his side happy. This was also the album where we really saw Pac open up and give a side of himself we'd only seen glimpses of before. And while easily the most well-known track in this department is the tear-jerking lead single Dear Mama, for me the most gut-wrenching moment comes on a different track, where Pac details a friend who got shot slowly dying in front of him. And the part that always gets me is when he says, "Done lost too many friends to this gang banging. Homie died in my arms with his brains hanging. Fucked up. I had to tell him it was all right, and that's a lie, and he knew it when he shook and died." There aren't nearly as many features on here as there'd be in some of his later work, but we do get a couple guest appearances from Bay Area legend Richie Rich, as well as various Outlaws members, who at that time went under the group name Dramacidal. As for the timeless production on Me Against the World, Pac enlisted a talented roster of names including Soul Shock and Carlin, Easy Mo B, Johnny J, Tony Pizarro, D Flisno Production Squad, Mike Mosley, Brian G, Sam Bostic, Mo ZMD, and Tupac's mentor, the late legend Shock G of Digital Underground. For my favorite tracks on this one, I'm gonna skip over Dear Mama for obvious reasons, and name my honorable mentions as If I Die Tonight, Me Against the World, Temptations, It Ain't Easy, Heavy in the Game, Can You Get Away, Old School, Fuck the World, and Outlaw. Then for the overall top three, I would have to go with So Many Tears, Lord Knows, and Death Around the Corner. Thank you for watching my 227th video. Next up, we have one of the true lyrical monsters who's still going strong today. So look out for that video, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite tracks off this West Coast masterpiece are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.
Look, the key to my soul is locked in the cage it opens. The framework was made from my own rib cue. What came first, the crack or the crack light, or whichever one the first fiend used to bring back